I, Eliza, sat across from Marianne, my mother-in-law. Her eyes, cold and calculating, bore into me over the dinner table. Nathan, my husband of 3 years, sat between us, a silent, uneasy spectator. "Eliza, dear, you really must learn to cook something more refined," Marianne commented, her voice dripping with condescendence as she pushed the homemade lasagna around her plate. I clenched my jaw, feeling a familiar surge of frustration. "I wasn't aware you disliked classic dishes, Marianne. Nathan always loved my cooking," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Nathan, as usual, stayed quiet, his gaze fixed on his plate. Marianne scoffed. "Nathan has always been too polite to criticize. But now that we're living together, I suppose it's my duty to guide you." Living together, a decision Nathan made without my consent, assuming I'd just adapt to his mother's constant presence in our home, our lives. The conversation shifted to mundane topics, but the undercurrent of hostility remained. As dinner concluded, I started clearing the table, my hands trembling slightly with suppressed anger. Nathan finally spoke, his words directed at his mother. "Mom, let me help with that." "No, Nathan, let Eliza do it. It's the least she can do since she doesn't contribute much else around here," Marianne retorted sharply. Nathan glanced at me apologetically but said nothing. I bit back a sharp retort, my heart pounding in silent fury. Later that evening, as I lay in bed, the events of the day replayed in my mind. Nathan's passivity, Marianne's barbs, the feeling of being an outsider in my own home. I turned to Nathan, who was already drifting to sleep. "Nathan, we need to talk about your mother," I whispered, my voice strained. He murmured sleepily, "Not now, Eliza, we'll talk in the morning." But the morning brought no respite. I awoke to find Marianne in the kitchen, critiquing my organization of the pantry. Nathan had already left for work, conveniently escaping the daily battleground that our home had become. As the day wore on, my frustration grew. Every misplaced item, every veiled insult from Marianne felt like a deliberate provocation. I started to wonder if Nathan saw the extent of his mother's interference, or if he chose to remain blissfully ignorant. That evening, I decided it was time to confront the issue head-on. "Marianne, I think it's important we set some boundaries," I said, my voice firmer than it had been in weeks. She looked up from her magazine, an amused smile playing on her lips. "Boundaries? My dear, this is my son's home as much as it is yours. I'm just here to help." "Help?" I couldn't keep the incredulity out of my voice. "By undermining me at every turn?" Marianne stood, her posture rigid with offense. "I am merely trying to ensure my son doesn't suffer because of your inadequacies. If anyone should be setting boundaries, it's me, to protect him from your shortcomings." The words hit me like a physical blow. I felt my resolve hardening. This wasn't just about differing personalities or minor disagreements. This was about respect, about my place in my own marriage, my own home. "Your son chose to marry me, Marianne. It's high time you respected that decision," I shot back, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Her eyes narrowed. "We'll see how long that lasts if you continue this attitude." The threat hung in the air between us, a clear warning of the battle lines being drawn. In that moment, I knew things couldn't continue this way. Something had to change. The morning light filtered weakly through the curtains, doing little to lift the heavy atmosphere in our home. I sat at the breakfast table, my coffee growing cold, as Marianne's voice sliced through the silence. "You know, Eliza, a woman's place is in the home, ensuring her husband's comfort. It's a pity you're so career-focused," she said, her tone patronizing. I clenched my fists under the table. "My career is important to me, Marianne. Nathan supports that," I replied, struggling to keep my voice even. She tutted, shaking her head. "Supports or tolerates, there's a difference, dear." Before I could respond, Nathan walked in, his expression weary. "Morning," he mumbled, avoiding my gaze as he sat down. I watched him, hoping for some sign of support, but he remained focused on his breakfast, a silent participant in the ongoing drama. The day progressed with an uneasy rhythm. Marianne found fault in everything I did, from the way I sorted the laundry to the choice of groceries. Her criticisms, once veiled, were now overt, designed to demean and provoke. In the evening, as we sat in the living room, Marianne broached a topic that made my blood run cold. "Nathan, dear, I've been thinking, with Eliza so busy with her work, perhaps it's time we considered starting a family. You need an heir, after all." I felt a jolt of shock. "Marianne, that's a decision for Nathan and me to make," Not you, I interjected, my voice tight with anger. Nathan finally spoke, his words cautious. Mom, Eliza's right. That's our business. Marianne's eyes flashed with annoyance. I'm only thinking of your future, Nathan. You need someone who can give you a proper family, not just a paycheck. The implication was clear and cruel. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. That's enough, Marianne. You have no right to dictate our personal decisions. Nathan looked torn, his gaze flickering between us. Eliza, let's not make a scene, he said weakly. A scene? My voice rose in disbelief. Your mother is overstepping every boundary, and you're asking me to be quiet? Marianne stood, her expression one of feigned concern. Eliza, dear, I'm only looking out for my son's best interests. It's what a mother does. I stared at her, the realization dawning that she would never respect me or my marriage. Your best interests are ruining our lives, Marianne. Nathan's silence was deafening. It was clear where his loyalties lay. The room felt suffocating, the walls closing in on me. I needed to escape, to breathe. Without another word, I grabbed my coat and left the house, the cold night air hitting me like a wave of freedom. As I walked, the tears I had been holding back began to fall, not just from anger, but from a deep sense of betrayal. I knew then that things had to change. I couldn't live in the shadow of Marianne's control, nor could I be part of a marriage where I was constantly undermined. It was time to make a stand, to fight back against the tyranny of a mother-in-law who saw me as nothing more than an obstacle to her control over her son. The confrontation with Marianne last night had left an icy tension in the house. As I, Eliza, moved about the kitchen preparing breakfast, I could feel her watching me, her gaze sharp and critical. Marianne broke the silence with a cutting remark. You know, Eliza, a woman who can't prioritize her family is hardly a woman at all. It's no wonder you're struggling to keep your husband happy. I stiffened, my grip tightening on the frying pan. My relationship with Nathan is none of your concern, Marianne, I said, struggling to keep my composure. Oh, but it is. Nathan is my son, and I won't watch him be neglected by a selfish wife, she retorted, her tone dripping with disdain. At that moment, Nathan walked in, rubbing his eyes sleepily. He paused, sensing the tension, but said nothing. Nathan, tell your wife where her duties lie, Marianne demanded, turning to him expectantly. Nathan hesitated, his gaze flickering between us. Eliza, maybe you could? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Maybe I could what, Nathan? Neglect my career, my aspirations, just to appease your mother? Nathan's silence was a clear answer. My heart sank as the reality of our situation sunk in. I was alone in this battle. The day worsened when I received a call from my boss. Marianne had interfered once again, canceling an important meeting I had scheduled, claiming it was for my family commitment. Returning home, I confronted Marianne. Why did you cancel my meeting? That was a professional commitment. Marianne looked at me, feigning innocence. I was merely helping. A wife should prioritize her home. Your work is secondary. That was not your decision to make, I exclaimed, my voice rising with every word. Nathan entered the room, his expression weary. Eliza, why are you making such a fuss? It was just a meeting. Just a meeting, I echoed, disbelief coloring my tone. It's my career, Nathan. Your mother has no right to interfere. Marianne's voice was cold. I did it for your own good, Eliza. You're losing sight of what's important. Nathan needs a wife, not a businesswoman. I looked at Nathan, waiting for him to defend me, to stand up for us, but he remained silent, his loyalty to his mother unyielding. In that moment, something inside me snapped. The realization that my marriage was a sham, a one-sided effort, became painfully clear. You know what, Marianne? You win. You can have Nathan. I refuse to be part of this charade any longer, I declared, my voice firm and resolute. Nathan looked at me, finally speaking up. Eliza, you don't mean that. We can work this out. There's no we in this marriage, Nathan. It's always been you and your mother. I'm done being the third wheel in my own marriage, I replied, my decision final. I packed a bag with my essentials, my hands shaking with a mix of anger and relief. As I left the house, Marianne's triumphant smirk was the last thing I saw. Walking out that door, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was the end of my marriage, but the beginning of my fight for independence. I was no longer the victim. It was time for Marianne to realize she had underestimated me. The night air was chilly as I walked, each step away from the house, feeling like a step towards liberation. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions: anger, relief, but above all, a burning desire for retribution against Marianne. I found refuge at my sister's house. As I explained everything, her outrage mirrored my own. "Eliza, this is unacceptable. You can't let them get away with this," she said, her voice laced with indignation. "I won't," I replied, my resolve hardening. "Marianne thinks she's won, but this is far from over." The next day I started planning. My first step was to secure my financial independence. I contacted my bank to separate my finances from Nathan's. I knew Marianne would try to manipulate Nathan into controlling my assets, and I couldn't let that happen. As I was sorting through my finances, I received a call from Nathan. His voice was hesitant, apologetic. "Eliza, can we talk?" "I think we've made a mistake." "A mistake?" I echoed, my voice cold. "No, Nathan, the only mistake was thinking your mother would ever accept me." "But Eliza, she's my mother. I thought you could learn to get along," he said, a note of desperation in his voice. "Get along? With a woman who has done nothing but undermine and disrespect me? I'm done, Nathan. I'm filing for divorce," I declared, my decision unwavering. There was a pause, and when Nathan spoke again, his tone had changed. "You can't do that, Eliza. Think about what you're throwing away." "I've thought about it, Nathan. I'm throwing away a marriage where I was never valued. I deserve better," I replied, cutting the call short. The following weeks were a blur of legal consultations and meetings. I filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. Nathan tried to convince me to return, but his pleas fell on deaf ears. I was done being manipulated. Meanwhile, Marianne's true nature began to show. She launched a smear campaign telling our mutual friends and family that I was abandoning Nathan, painting herself as the victim. But I was prepared. I had documented everything: her intrusive behavior, her attempts to control my life, even the incident with my work meeting. As the divorce proceedings began, Nathan was caught off guard by the evidence I presented. Marianne's facade began to crumble under the weight of her own deceit. One evening, as I sat reviewing legal documents, a sense of satisfaction washed over me. Marianne had underestimated me, thinking she could control my life. But I was fighting back, reclaiming my independence. I knew the road ahead would be tough, but I was ready for it. Marianne had awakened a strength in me I never knew I had. It was time for her to face the consequences of her actions. The divorce proceedings became a battleground where every meeting was a clash of wills. Marianne, through Nathan, fought fiercely, trying to salvage what little control she had left over the situation. But I stood my ground, armed with evidence and a newfound determination. During one heated mediation session, Marianne attempted to play the victim. "Eliza is tearing this family apart. Nathan, tell them how she's always put her work before you, before us," she pleaded, her voice quivering with feigned emotion. I looked at her, my eyes steely. "The only thing tearing this family apart is your inability to let Nathan live his own life. You've smothered him, and you tried to smother me," I retorted, my voice firm. Nathan sat there, a picture of confliction. "Eliza, isn't there a way we can work this out? I don't want to lose you," he stammered, his eyes pleading. I felt a pang of sorrow for what we had once shared, but it was quickly overshadowed by the reality of our broken marriage. "There's nothing left to work out, Nathan. Your mother made sure of that." As the legal battles dragged on, Marianne's attempts to manipulate the narrative became more desperate. She even resorted to calling my employer, trying to paint me as an unstable and unreliable employee. But her efforts backfired. My boss, aware of my personal situation, offered support instead of censure. Then, the ultimate blow came. During a particularly intense meeting, I revealed the recordings I had made of Marianne's derogatory remarks and her admitting to sabotaging my professional commitments. The revelation was a turning point. Nathan's facade of denial crumbled as he was faced with the undeniable truth of his mother's manipulative behavior. "You did all this, Mom? Why?" Nathan asked, his voice a mixture of disbelief and hurt. Marianne's composure finally broke. "I did it for you, Nathan. She was never right for you. I was protecting you." But Nathan seemed to see her for what she truly was, protecting me or controlling me. He shot back, his voice tinged with bitterness. As the meetings continued, Nathan became more withdrawn, the reality of his mother's actions and his own inaction dawning on him. He attempted to reach out to me privately, expressing regret and sorrow. But It was too late. The damage was done, and my decision was final. The day the divorce was finalized was a day of mixed emotions. Relief, because I was finally free from Marianne's grasp. Sadness for the love I once had for Nathan that was now lost. But above all, there was a sense of triumph. Marianne had tried to break me, but instead, she had forged me into someone stronger. I walked out of the courthouse, the sun shining brightly, feeling like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I had faced my oppressor and emerged victorious. It was the end of a painful chapter, but the beginning of a new journey, one where I was in control of my own destiny. The finalization of my divorce marked the beginning of a new chapter in my life. Freed from the chains of a toxic marriage and Marianne's manipulation, I found myself embracing a newfound independence. I dove into my career with renewed vigor. My dedication paid off, and soon I was offered a promotion. The success was sweet, not just for its professional rewards, but also as a testament to my resilience. Marianne's attempts to sabotage my career had not only failed but had propelled me to greater heights. As I thrived, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Nathan and Marianne's relationship had soured. Without me as a buffer, the full brunt of Marianne's controlling nature fell on Nathan. They argued frequently, their once close bond strained by the very tactics Marianne had employed to keep Nathan under her thumb. One evening, as I sat in my new apartment, a sense of satisfaction washed over me. I had escaped a life of submission and emerged stronger, more self-assured. The struggles I had endured were now pillars of my newfound strength. However, my triumph was not without a touch of sorrow. I thought of Nathan, the man I had once loved, now a victim of his mother's machinations. His regret was palpable in the few messages he sent, expressing his realization of the truth too late. It was during this time that I received an unexpected call from Nathan. His voice was a mix of desperation and sadness. "Eliza, I'm sorry. I see it now, all of it, Mom. She's not the person I thought she was." I listened, a mix of emotions swirling within me. "Nathan, I wish you had seen it sooner, but we can't change the past." "I know. I miss you. I miss us," he confessed, his voice cracking with emotion. I sighed, a part of me aching for the love we had lost. "Nathan, I've moved on. I hope you can too. You need to find your own path, free from your mother's influence." The call ended with a sense of closure. I felt for Nathan, but I also knew that our paths had irrevocably diverged. My journey was now my own, no longer overshadowed by the drama of my marriage. As weeks turned into months, my life settled into a peaceful rhythm. I found joy in small things, my work, my friends, my independence. The scars of the past remained, but they were no longer painful. They were reminders of what I had overcome and the strength I had gained. The story of my marriage, once a tale of manipulation and control, had become a narrative of empowerment and resilience. I had not only survived, I had flourished. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the city as I stood on my apartment balcony. It had been a year since my divorce, and life had settled into a new, peaceful rhythm. My career was thriving, and for the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely happy. A phone call interrupted my reverie. It was from an old mutual friend of Nathan and me. "Eliza, have you heard about Marianne?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern. "No, what happened?" I inquired, a sense of foreboding settling over me. "She's in the hospital. After you left, things between her and Nathan got worse. She had a fall, and, well, it's serious," she explained. I felt a complex mix of emotions. Marianne had been the source of so much pain in my life, yet I couldn't rejoice in her misfortune. "I see. Thanks for letting me know," I said, ending the call. The news stirred up a whirlwind of memories. Despite everything, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy. Marianne's actions, driven by her need to control, had ultimately led to her downfall. Later that evening, Nathan called. "Eliza, I don't know who else to turn to. Mom's not doing well, and I'm struggling," he confessed, his voice breaking. I listened, a sense of detachment washing over me. "Nathan, I'm sorry about your mother, but you need to be strong now. You have to make decisions for her and yourself." There was a pause, and then he whispered, "I miss you, Eliza. I wish things could have been different." I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "Nathan, we all make choices, and we live with the consequences. I've moved on, and I hope you can too. Find strength in yourself, not in others." As I hung up, I felt a chapter of my life definitively close. Nathan and Marianne's story was no longer mine. I had moved on, grown stronger, and learned to value myself above all. The next morning, as I walked to work, the city felt different, as if it mirrored my own liberation. I had faced my challenges head-on and emerged victorious. My past with Nathan and Marianne was a reminder of the strength that comes from adversity. It had taught me the importance of standing up for oneself and the dangers of losing oneself in another's shadow. As I looked ahead, I saw a future filled with possibilities. A life where I was the author of my own story, free from the chains of manipulation and control. In that moment, I realized the true meaning of empowerment. It wasn't just about overcoming obstacles, it was about transforming them into stepping stones towards a better, stronger self. Marianne's karma was her own making, a result of her actions and choices. As for me, I had chosen a path of resilience and growth. The future was mine to shape, and I embraced it with open arms and a heart full of hope.